Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Speedy's Garage. So I get a text from Mr. Mopar, that's what we've been calling it. We're headed over to his shop now. Unbelievably, he turned the car around in 2 days. So I went over to give him a hand with a few things on Saturday, and they had already gotten the engine removed and were ready to put the red-eye engine in the car. So I didn't really get to do that much work because he moved so fast. And by the time I think he started like 11 o'clock in the morning maybe, and by 5:30 in the afternoon, he had already put the red-eye engine in the car. So he texted me a video of it running the next day, and texted me yesterday. It's Tuesday night. He texted me Monday night and said, hey, you can come pick the car up, it's ready. So we're headed over to the shop to pick up Go Man Go. All right, we're here at Mr. Mopar's shop. I can see Go Man Go. Looks like he's all ready to rock and roll. Cannot believe how fast he got this work done. Whew. Take a look at that. Clean, everything's buttoned up. Obviously my coil pack covers are still at my shop, and I kept the billet technology cover at the shop too, just so it was out of his way. That's it. It says it's ready to fire up and ready to go. So I did ask him if there were any major differences between the red-eye engine and the Hellcat engine that he took out, and there were a couple. One was this, I guess it's like a PCV hose. On the Hellcat it went straight from here to the valve cover in the front, and on the red-eye it goes all the way to the back of the valve cover. So he used some vinyl line and a couple of fittings to make it factory just like a red-eye engine. The other difference I think was the water temperature sensor. It had a different plug on it. So my wiring harness, the way the slot in the plug, and I've got the sensors in the car, I'll show you these when we get back to the shop. The way the plug was shaped was different, so he just took the water temperature sensor out of my Hellcat engine and put it into the red-eye engine. And then the knock sensors had the same thing. So knock sensors looked the same until you got down to the end where the plug was, and the plug had like a different slot on it than the harness in the 2016 Hellcat had. So he just put my knock sensors off the old engine on the red-eye engine, and it's good to go. So those are the three small things we had to do. I did tweak the tune just a little bit because the red-eye engine has a much larger cam in it than the Hellcat. So I made sure I looked at a factory red-eye engine tune and took those values and kind of put them in my tune when we loaded it back in the car. So I'm going to load that before I leave. Now I think we're ready to fire it up and see how it sounds. Okay, this is the first fire up for me anyway. A little bit anxious, to be honest. See how it sounds. Everything sounds great. Woo! Feels good to have him back and upgraded. I love this car. Sounds pretty good. Well, that's it. We are ready to go. Now we got to put the 500 braking miles on it. Well, we're driving him home. I can't believe how quick. Again, I keep saying that because I literally just dropped the car off over at Mr. Mopar's shop like 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago. Let's see, from the time it broke until the time that we're now back on the road has been 15 days. That's how long. It broke on a Saturday at the drag strip. I took about a week deciding what to do. You know, I went through, should I have a motor built like I mentioned before, so I just replaced it with a factory Hellcat engine. Andy at East Coast Moparts happened to have one on the shelf. The rest of them were back ordered. I couldn't find anywhere or find any of those anywhere except at Andy's place. And then crew chief Greg came up with the idea, and we were at dinner leaving the track when the car broke. He said, hey man, you should try to get you a Demon engine or a Red Eye engine, and asked Andy if it was possible. And at the time there were like 4 available in the country. He ordered me one. I had it in, I think I took a week making that decision. So I started on that Monday after it broke. Broke at the track Saturday. Monday we started doing our research, deciding what to do, and then the next Friday, that Friday I made the decision, told Andy to pull the trigger, and I had the engine probably 3 or 4 days later. It showed up. We just had it shipped straight to Mr. Mopar's shop, and then I guess he took, maybe he piddled with it a little bit. I dropped it off to him on a Wednesday night. He might have removed some wiring harnesses or stuff just to get started. Checked with him Friday night, and I said, hey man, you want me to come over and help you on Saturday? And he said, yeah, we'll probably get started about 11. I had a few things I had to do with Mrs. Speedy. I got to his shop about 2 p.m. and from between 11 and 2 p.m. He and another gentleman that came out to help him as well had the broken engine out, disassembled, already knew what was going on with it, and the Red Eye engine ready to drop in. So it took them 3 hours. And then they finished up getting the engine in that night. He wanted to look everything over the next day, so that would have been a Sunday, and ran it for a little bit. And he did tell me when he first fired it up, I guess there was some oil probably in the catalytic converters and in the exhaust from where, when the rod and piston failed, some of that oil got up in the intake and came into the exhaust system. So he said it smoked a little bit, so all that's cleared out now, no smoke at all. And he texted me, said, hey, it's ready to rock and roll on Monday about lunchtime. And so it's Tuesday, and I came over to pick it up. So very, very quick repair, especially considering I took a week deciding what to do. And if something like that happens, I recommend not letting it linger. It's almost like a funeral. You know, you just want to kind of get that part over and done with and move on. I waited about a week, like I said, to decide what to do, and I didn't even want to walk out into the shop and look at the car. So keep that in mind. It's kind of depressing when you have a hot rod like this and you know you can't go drive it. It's just sitting there broken. So again, I'm very thankful I have a good team around me. We had, you know, our crew chief Greg, who was there to support me and help me out any way he could. We had Mr. Mopar, who can turn some wrenches like nobody I've ever seen. Andy at East Coast Moparts, you know, and that's what I've said before. I really have enjoyed the community of this culture for these cars. You come across some really, really good people, and I've made some really good friendships as a result. So now we're gonna get back to the shop. I've got to put the 500 break-in miles on the car before we can start, you know, getting after it. And then I'm gonna start, Mike from OST Dyno has been training me on tuning these Hellcats. And each week I try to take a little piece and learn about that section. And so I'm gonna start tuning this thing myself, obviously with his supervision, but I did put a startup tune in it that I'm driving home in, and so far so good. All the temperatures look good, air fuels look good. Like I said, I can't get on it yet, so that 500 miles is up, but at least I got the tune good enough to drive home on, so go me. And a real special thanks to Mr. Mopar. He had some other stuff he was working on. I just mentioned to him that I had Challenger Fest coming up, and I said, if there's any way we could have this fixed by Challenger Fest, I said, man, it would be awesome. If not, no big deal, but if there's any way possible, that would be great. And he knocked it out of the park. And I did take off the coil pack covers like I mentioned, so we're gonna get those put back on, as well as the fuse box cover. And I just did that so that they were out of his way. These are the sensors I told you guys about. So these are the knock sensors that came off the Red Eye engine. The plug was a little bit different on my wiring harness than these accept, so that's what the knock sensors look like. They bolt on each side of the motor, and then the harness plugs in there. So we use the factory Hellcat knock sensors off the old motor, like I mentioned before, And then this, I think I said it was the water temperature sensor, but it was actually the oil pressure sensor. I looked up the part number. It's 68295556 alpha. So that was actually an oil pressure sensor. And again, it was the same kind of deal. That high ledge right here, I think was different on my wiring harness on the Hellcat versus the Red Eye. I think this ledge was actually on the other side for mine. So oil pressure sensor and the 2 knock sensors were the only things that were different, and that PCV hose that I showed you versus the Hellcat engine and the Red Eye engine, and it basically just dropped right in. It's hot. Whew. There it is, all put back together. And honestly, unless you really know what you're looking for, you can't really tell it's got a Red Eye or Demon engine in it. The black valve covers are a giveaway. You can see those down underneath the coil pack covers. A lot of people call these valve covers. These are actually just coil pack covers. Those black, this right here, the part that the catch can is plugged into, that is actually the valve cover. And on the factory Hellcat engine, they are orange. On the Demon motor, they're actually red. And on the Red Eye motor, they're black. Other than that, you have to look real close, and way down in there, you can see the block is red. That's really the only 2 giveaways. I did reuse my factory supercharger. This is not a Red Eye supercharger. As you saw when you ordered the long block, supercharger isn't included, so we just cleaned mine out, cleaned it up, moved it right over, and it bolted right on top of the Red Eye engine. So this is the factory Hellcat 2.3 liter supercharger. And I did keep the Hellraiser 272 pulley. So that's still the same pulley we had on the car before. I think with the upgraded internals on this one, it's only making a pound or 2 more boost than a Red Eye. Red Eyes are about 14.5, and on this 2016 car, 2016 supercharger, I guess I should say, that 272 pulley makes about 16.5 pounds of boost. If you've got a later car, I may have mentioned this before, if you've got a 2017, 2018, or 2019 2.3 liter supercharged Hellcat, we're suspicious that they have changed something inside the supercharger and they're actually making more boost. Now, they don't make more boost from the factory. They're still 11.6. But when you start changing pulleys, for some reason, they make a little more boost. I think people have told me on a 285 they're actually making 17 pounds, and on a 272 it's 18 or 19. So keep that in mind if you have a later version of the Hellcat. All right, so I try to get Miss Speedy to say hi, and she's not having it today. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I am very, very happy to have Go Man Go back in the shop and back home. Now we're just gonna get those 500 break-in miles on him and then get out to the track and see what we can do with it. I'm still gonna be shooting for those 9-second time slips. Again, the goal is 10-0 in any weather, but I would like to have a 9-second time slip under my belt. And after getting so close back in March, you know, we ran a 10.03, a 10.04, and a 10.05, so we were right there. And that was with basically a broken piston on 93 octane. So should be super easy to do with good fuel, number 1. And number 2, I could probably do it on my 93 octane setup. It's got quite a bit more oomph in it with that cam, so I'm curious to see how that does. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedy's_garage, as well as our website, www.speedysgarage.net. And hopefully, I'll see you out